who have very different callings in their life who respond to it in two very different ways. You have Samuel, who is a man of God, but has a tough time discerning God's voice. It actually takes him 4 times to hearing God's voice to finally realize that it was God. And he didn't realize it himself. He had to have someone tell him that that was God. And then but he's a man who after learning God's voice and hearing it and recognizing it, he depends on God for everything. So, and on the other hand, you have Saul. He's someone who looks the part of a king, but he's someone who finds his calling and completely runs from it. He hides among the supplies when it's time for him to step into that. Who gets afraid and arrogant and impatient. Both men have very different callings, but the success of those callings all depends on how they respond to God. And I find myself relating to Samuel a lot in the early days. I'm constantly trying to figure out is this what God wants me to do? Trying to discern is this God's voice or is this my voice? And should I do this or should I do that? As Charles said, I grew up in Georgia on the East Coast in a very, very small town. My graduating class was around 250. So it's very small. And everyone knew everyone else's business. But no one really knew my business because I internalized a lot of my own struggles. But I won't get into that. I actually went to Tulsa, Oklahoma for college, and I went there for 2 years, and that was actually one of the first times that I heard God's voice was when He told me that this was where He wanted me to be. So whenever I would come through those hard situations, those hard times, I would lean on the understanding that at this one moment, God told me to be here, and without a shadow of doubt, no one else could say otherwise because God spoke to me. After that, after about 2 years, I got involved with a nonprofit called My Broken Palace that helped teens and young adults that are struggling with depression, self-injury, suicide, pretty heavy stuff. And I went through depression myself, tried to kill myself. Thankfully, did not go successfully. Thank you for that. But after a while, about 3 months of being on the road consistently, living out of a car, tents, and hotels, I decided that California was where I wanted to be. So that's where the nonprofit was based out of, in Lake Forest, California. So I wasn't really doing anything with my life there in Tulsa. I was couch surfing for a month and a half of just being on relying on people's good graces, which is really, really humbling. I don't know if you've ever done that, but to go in someone's house, eat their food, and use their electricity and their water is is one of the most humbling experiences that I can think of. But I remember going out, and I was driving, and this is a 22-hour drive nonstop. It took me 36 hours, and I'm driving by myself with a radio. I didn't have an iPod or anything, so it was a pretty silent drive at points. But I remember I just crossed over into Texas, just outside of Amarillo, and I was just outside of Amarillo, and I had a tail light out, or a headlight out, and a cop pulls me over, gives me a ticket. And about 10 minutes later, I get pulled over again, and the cop actually takes me out of my car, puts me in his passenger seat. So imagine me being 20, 21, I believe at the time, and just sitting there going, what did I do wrong? It's just my tail light. But there had been some issue with my car registration and so on and so forth. But so I mean, I was just so distraught, and I was just like, God, why are you doing this to me? And then like go to stop at a gas station, get like 2 hours of sleep, and then start to head out again. I actually had 5-hour energies with me, and I took way too many of them, way too short of amount of time, and actually got sick. So I stopped over at another gas station, and like took a 30-minute nap, and had so much 5-hour energy in me that I was like, I cannot sleep, do anything but drive. And imagine like having like 2 5-hour energies in you, and you're in a car for a day. Oh my gosh. But I get out of my car, and I go inside, and I get a water bottle, pay for it, and come back out, and I go to reach for my keys, which are usually on here, and they're not there, and I'm like, where's my keys? And I look inside the car, and they're like in the middle console. And it's like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. You just have to be kidding me right now. I'm in the middle of nowhere at this gas station. I'm 30 minutes from any town. What the heck do I do? And thankfully, my dad is just awesome. I called him, and I'm like on the verge of tears, like, God, I want my keys in my car. I got sick. I don't know what to do. And he's like, calm down. Call the locksmith. I was like, I didn't have a smartphone at the time, so I'm like, how the heck am I going to look up a number? So I had to go back inside and then like shamefully ask for a phone book. Who uses those?
First world problems.
Yellow pages. Just, you never know. So I call the locksmith. It ends up being like $8. And I'm on my last like $100. I'm like, how the heck am I going to pay for this? I call my dad back again. And he's like, don't worry, I'll pay for it. I'll even pay for your ticket. So I was like, God, gosh, thank God for great parents. I mean, if you have great parents, you just revel in that, because it's just amazing. So before all that happened, I locked my keys in my car. And I remember being so just drained, and sitting on the back, put my back against the wall, in the gas station, in the middle of nowhere. It's like 4 o'clock or like 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun's coming up, and I'm just drained and empty. And I remember just being on the verge of tears, going, is this really what I'm supposed to do? There's so much that's working against me. Like having no money, like having no gas, locked my keys in my car, having like this, and this, having so much work against me. It was just like, really, God? Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? Because this is really, really cracking right now. And I just remember going, I'm halfway there. I'm in the exact middle point of my trip. Even if I go back, it's the same amount of distance. So I'm stuck. I'm just in this place where I either can make the choice to move forward with it or run from it. And I'm here today, so I mean that tells you, like, I went and I chose to go for it. And it wasn't an easy choice. It wasn't a choice to where I was like, God, I know that you're doing this for me, and like I'm gonna impact lives, and like you're just gonna work through me. And it wasn't that. It was a decision that I made, and it was just that. It was just a decision that I made. And through that decision, through that knowing that I can do more following God than I can ever do on my own, I went for it. And in my life, I've responded to God in 2 ways. I either ran from Him a lot. I mean, a lot. And I listened to Him. And what I've learned is that there's no halfway. There's no halfway point to where you can say, well, I'm going to obey God just a little bit. No. And I've been myself, who would say, I'm going to do this to an extent. But when push comes to shove, my fear and impatience took over. And sometimes I would get swallowed by my own fear that I would serve others instead of God. And I've also been like Samuel. And hearing God's voice, but not being able to distinguish it between His and the other voices that are in my mind. And you can go ahead and start praying a little bit. Can someone hit the lights, please? Hearing God's voice, but not being able to distinguish it. And I had such a hard time with that. I've become so familiar with the other voices that are inside my head, saying things that are just complete lies. And I have to consistently ask myself, is this what I want, or is this what I need? And I want to ask you guys that same question. Is this something that you want, or is this something that you need? Regardless of what it is, whatever you're going through, whatever decision that you have laid out in front of you, is this what God wants, or is this what God needs? Or is this what you want, or this is what you need? And maybe some of it is like saying, I need to take a class. I need to have a hard conversation with a trusted friend. Maybe it's confronting the pastor of pain. Maybe it's giving up the control of your life. Maybe it's letting go of something that you've held so dearly to yourself that's beginning to break you. Whatever the case may be, I've learned that I need to ask God that question. Is this what I want, or is this what I need? And actually throughout my life, I've had these voices in my head saying that, like even tonight, saying that you're not worthy. You look at this that you've done, look at this that you've done. Now I want to speak to you guys directly who have had that voice in your head, because that's something that I deal with on a daily basis. Not only just with coming up here and speaking with you guys, but just being able to talk to somebody, being able to be a listening ear to somebody. I keep hearing this voice in my head saying, look at what you've done. God can't use you. And that's a complete lie. Because Jacob was a cheater. Peter had a temper. David had an affair. Noah got drunk. Jonah ran from God. Paul was a murderer. Gideon was insecure. Miriam was a gossip. Martha was a worrier. Thomas was a doubter. Sarah was impatient. Elijah was moody. Moses suffered. Zacchaeus was short. Abraham was old. And Lazarus was dead. But God's grace is sufficient for you. God can take you no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've done in your past, and He can use you. Rick Warren said something at the serve day that really struck me. He said that broken trees can still bear fruit. That it doesn't matter that how broken you are, that you can still further the kingdom. Tonight, I really want to open it up for prayer. And I want you guys to find a place that is to your own, to find a posture that is comfortable for you. And ask God, is this something that I want, or is this something that I need? Because when it all comes down to it, it doesn't matter what you want. What matters is what you need.